You're watching Omaha Bound, inside the Men's College World Series.
Welcome into another edition of Omaha Bound. I am Jacob Morris. We've got another awesome show lined up for you today. First, you already see him. This guy, Evan Kamiko, joins the show to break down the marquee matchup of the first round, Arkansas and LSU, two SEC foes going head-to-head. And then we break down UCLA's win over Murray State to advance the matchup against the Tigers as well. And then we talk Coastal Carolina. Chris Parks joins the show. And then we wrap up with the Beavers. Coastal Carolina and Oregon State going head-to-head tomorrow. Brennan Green joins us to give us the story behind the Beaver Dam in Corvallis. Fun stuff there. But, Evan, let's hop right into it. We begin with Arkansas-LSU. This was the game that everybody was excited about. LSU takes it 4-1, and it starts and finishes with pitching for the Tigers.
Yeah, look, absolutely. When you look at the box scores, the team that struck out 16 times, they ended up winning the game. 9 times out of 10, you don't see that. But Cade Anderson was absolutely spectacular. 7 strikeouts, and a lot of the contact Arkansas was making wasn't really hard hit. We were counting her in the game at one point. How many hard hit balls does Arkansas have? And around the 7th, 8th inning, you can only say 5 maximum. And by then, LSU already had 6 hits. So it was really a dominant win, I thought, for LSU against Arkansas. Arkansas's offense just couldn't get anything going tonight, and that started and ended with Cade Anderson on the mound.
Cade Anderson was phenomenal. After the game, Razorback players talked about what he was doing to limit the Hogs.
Yeah, he was attacking us early. A lot of counts were 0-2. He had 3 pitches working for him, and he worked both sides of the plates. And, it was just, he had all 3 pitches and commanded them well.
Locating his pitches pretty well. His off speed was pretty good today. He's just a good pitcher in general. It's tough, but we have to do it. That's the thing.
Now, Evan, when we looked at this matchup on paper, we said low scoring. We got that. We said low scoring because you got 2 first-round arms on the mound. But we didn't have one of those arms on the mound for a very long time. Zach Root goes only an inning and 2/3 before he's pulled. He gives up 3 runs. Dave early to go to Gabe Gackle. Zach just didn't have his stuff tonight.
No, definitely not. But you can say he kind of did at the same time because the first inning, 14 pitches, really efficient. And it looked like it was the Zach Root we saw last weekend against Tennessee and the weekend before that in the game against, I believe,
Creighton.
Creighton. Well, I was going to say North Dakota State. But here we are. Look, at the end of the day, Jacob, Zach Root, didn't have his stuff in the second. But when we talked to him after the game, he just said, look, at the end of the day, it was 2 walks. Yeah, the 2 walks hurt. You knew you couldn't give up walks. It's how Arkansas lost last year in the regionals. And it's the same thing tonight. 2 walks come back to hurt him. And then a bunt single and a little blooper off the end of the bat for LSU. And that's really how they got on the board and just never looked back. And I think, again, Root didn't have his stuff, like you said. Again, you can make an argument both ways, but DVH had to go to the bullpen early because this was still a Gabe, and Gabe Gackle was phenomenal.
And at first, you and I were sitting next to each other, and we looked at each other and said, wow, like Gackle's sprinting out to the bullpen, and we are in the 2nd inning. Is that a little bit too early? But to your point, Dave ends up pushing the exact right button because that decision, although Arkansas doesn't ultimately win, is the reason the Razorbacks were still in it because Gackle was unbelievable. Career high in terms of innings pitched. He goes 6 innings, career high strikeouts in terms of 10. He was phenomenal throughout this game. Arkansas doesn't get the win, but they're not remotely close if Gackle doesn't pitch the way he does.
No, and that's why you're kind of happy in a weird way if you're Arkansas right now because in theory you really burned 1 arm tonight, and that was Gabe Gackle. Look, give credit where credit is due. LSU's lineup did what they had to do early on. We thought whoever scored first would end up having the ultimate edge at the end, and that came true. But Gackle kept them in the game. I think his fastball was really good, and he just had all 4 pitches going today. And you saw the changeup and the slider mixed in with the fastball, and he wasn't touching that 98 that we've seen before from Gabe, maybe 99, 100, but he was really solid sitting 95, 96, keeping the LSU hitters on their toes. And like I said when we opened the show, Gackle had 10 of LSU's 16 strikeouts. So it's crazy to think that, yes, he didn't get the win. If you show you that performance 9 times out of 10, you think Arkansas won the game. But this is the College World Series. There's a reason why all these teams are the 8 left in the field, and LSU did what they had to do early. The game settled down, and the offense just couldn't get going.
What I loved from Gackle postgame, I had a chance to talk with him, is I asked him what he had working for him, and he just didn't want to talk about it because Arkansas didn't get the win, and he said, I think I had all 4 pitches working. I asked him about, hey, what did you see from Zach Root? And he said, I just don't think some of the command was there. Regardless, phenomenal performance from Gabe Gackle, but now an Arkansas team that was red hot, undefeated, 5-0 in the postseason, back against the wall, do or die from here on out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what we haven't seen Arkansas do yet really in a couple of months is, laugh in the face of danger, because they haven't been in danger at all. You could say the one close game they truly had was that 4-3 game against Tennessee, where in the 9th inning they were up 4-2. Gackle gives up the home run to Fisher, and then you're like, okay, it's a little bit closer, but they got out of it. So this is backs against the wall. They'll face off against Murray State on Monday at 1 p.m. And you look at every single statistic and every measurement, and it has Arkansas written all over it for the win. On paper, they should crush them, but we know don't listen to anything that paper tells you. But yeah, it'll be the first real test of this postseason. Really, all the time, because they weren't really tested in the SEC tournament. So it'll be the first time we get to see Dave Van Horn's squad with the backs against the wall. Look, the road isn't any easy up ahead. Now they've got to win 4 games if they want to get to that championship series. The good news, Zach Root should be able to pitch Tuesday, Wednesday. So you could have Gagewood going Monday, Zach Root again Tuesday, Wednesday, and then it's just a dogfight if you could get back and play LSU or play UCLA then.
Arkansas has been so good bouncing back from losses this year. It's a bit of an interesting dynamic. Go ahead.
I do want to cut in really quickly. They haven't lost 2 games in a row this season, so let's keep that in mind.
Yeah, and that's good news for Arkansas. The other thing that I guess you could say was good news or bad news, Arkansas's now got to wait a day to get back on the field in terms of playing Murray State. The players eager to flush this one. They talked about it post-camp.
I mean, yeah, we're always excited to get out and play baseball. I mean, we're just itching to get out of there now. I mean, we're going to rest up tomorrow, go back to Cam's high school to get some practice in, but I mean, yeah, we're ready to go.
No, we know our offense. UBH really told us that it's baseball, things are going to happen, not everything's going to go our way. There's going to be some games where our offense is clicking, some days not. Today's one of those days, so we're just going to flush this and be ready for Murray State.
Hear it there. So Monday, Arkansas, do or die. It's one game at a time for this squad. From here on out, that's the only choice. Evan, what is the key for Arkansas, among many, to staying alive in the Men's College World Series?
I mean, isn't it obvious after tonight? You've got to get the bats going. I think it starts. Charles Davlon ended up having a hit, but it wasn't until the 9th inning. He sets the tone for this Razorback lineup. You've got to get the offense going early. Everyone more or less looked at the plate. Like, I wanted to pick 2 or 3 guys out that you could say, well, maybe, they didn't really have the night. And the top of the order went, 1 of 12. But everybody in Arkansas didn't have the night. If Reese Robinette is hitting the only home run of the game, I don't want to say it's a problem, but it's a problem. So Arkansas's got to get on the board early against Murray State. Put the pressure on the Racers and go from there, and it all starts at the top. I'd like to see Davlon get on base early, and a little more from Logan Maxwell and Ryder Helfrich.
It's a great point. Really, Vahiva Aloy, the only consistent offensive threat today, got on base a couple of times, but regardless, in the marquee matchup of round number 1, Arkansas falls to LSU 4-1. It is back against the wall, do or die. Pick your cliche for the Razorbacks from here on out. Murray State on Monday. But it's time for a quick break here on Omaha Bound. When we come back, we talk UCLA's win over the Racers, and we talk a little about Coastal Carolina. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Omaha Bound. You heard it before the break. LSU takes down Arkansas 4-1 to advance in the winner's bracket. Who are they going to take on? That'd be UCLA. UCLA taking down Murray State 6-4 in the first game of the second day of the Men's College World Series. And for the Bruins, an interesting matchup with the Racers. UCLA raced out, no pun intended, to a 6-0 lead, but Murray State fought back the way that they have all season long. Made this one 6-4, and the Racers challenged the Bruins several times late in this one. Eventually, Coach Savage for the Bruins turned to freshman Easton Hawk in the 9th inning, said, go get the save, freshman. Welcome to Omaha. He got it done, and the Bruins advanced past the Racers. That sets Murray State and Arkansas, in the losers bracket on Monday at 1 o'clock. And at 6 o'clock, UCLA and LSU going to go head-to-head to keep trying to advance in the winners bracket. After the game, Coach Savage talked about just how much of a hard-fought battle it was for UCLA.
It was a good, hard-fought win. Murray State is very, very competitive. We knew when we put up a 4 in the 4th that, they probably wouldn't blink an eye, and they didn't. They kept battling back. It wasn't an easy victory. We pitched out some problems today.
We take a lot of pride in our defense. That's something that we know is never going to go away, going game to game. And yeah, we knew it was going to be tough, and defense is really a separator, especially in these big games. So, yeah, just sticking to what we've been doing.
Defense was fantastic for the Bruins, really across the board. A solid first game here in the Men's College World Series for UCLA. The Bruins making their first appearance since they won it all in 2013, and a solid way to start. 6-4 over the Racers to advance in the winner's bracket and set up a heck of a showdown between LSU and UCLA Monday night at 6 p.m. We're going to take a quick break and head outdoors. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Coastal Carolina and what's made that team so special ahead of their matchup with Oregon State. Just like that, we're back outside and here on Omaha Bound, joined now by Chris Parks, sports director at WPTW, covering Coastal. And let's talk a little bit about the game yesterday. 3 runs in the 8th inning to get it done. Coastal, a team that just doesn't seem to quit at all.
No, absolutely not. This team just continues to get timely hitting. Their pitching's been unbelievable so far this year. I think they have the second best ERA in all the NCAA in terms of pitching-wise, and they get hits when it counts. They're not going to hit for a lot of power, a lot of home runs, but they get the hits the most whenever they need them.
It goes to my teammates, having guys on base, and just picking me up all throughout the game, different moments where I wasn't able to capitalize when we needed me to. But those guys trust me, and I have all the trust in them, so it takes a lot of weight off your shoulders, and you just go out there and you have fun and you play. And then the result is we win a lot of games because we believe in each other and we get it done.
So after the win, now it sets up a really intriguing matchup with Oregon State. First of all, just a ridiculously intriguing day one. After Coastal comes out with just an awesome win against Arizona, Oregon State goes ahead and says we're just going to one-up it with a walk-off there against Louisville. But a really interesting matchup from the standpoint that you got Coastal, who is the hottest team in baseball by a long shot. 24 straight wins now against an Oregon State team with an intriguing storyline in their own right. How do you see this one playing out tomorrow?
I think it's going to be a great matchup here. Both these teams kind of similar in ways. They both can hit the ball. They both got some really, really good pitching. But for Coastal Carolina, gosh, 24 straight wins. They haven't lost since April the 22nd when they lost to the College of Charleston, and that was during a midweek game. But Coastal's just got the heart right now. I mean, Kevin Schnall, their head coach, they're just laser focused on everything right now. I mean, the small details, things like that. There's no joking around with this team. They're just playing. I mean, they're just grinding right now and just playing for that trophy that they got 9 years ago.
Yeah, focus is what comes to mind. Coach Schnall, I think the way that he opened his presser yesterday, right, was a bunch of humble and hungry dogs. You've been around this team. What is it about this group that's allowed them to go on this run and to be where they're at right now?
It's been crazy. I mean, just a lot of veteran guys as well, too, I think is the big thing. Caden Bodine, their All-American catcher. I think he's a great leader in the locker room right now. He's been through this program the last couple of years. I mean, he knows what it takes. He's going to be a future first or second round Major League draft pick. Then the pitching staff. I mean, you talk about the three-headed monster with Cameron Fluke. You've got Riley Eichhoff and then also Jacob Morrison. Jacob Morrison, the Sun Belt pitcher of the year, 11-0. He's going to get the start against Oregon State. So they're going to have their work cut out for them, though. This is going to be the toughest matchup, I think, on paper at least, that they've seen throughout this year. Auburn was no slouch, but I think this one's going to be really tough.
Impressive what they did to Oregon, and I think that's a great segue talking about the fact that I love the way this group is. People want to call them Cinderellas, and they just say absolutely not. This is a good baseball team and one that belongs to be here and has proven that. Just what about that moniker do you think that has kind of fit this team in terms of, hey, people want to call them a Cinderella, but this is just a baseball team that's one of the 8 best in the entire country?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They're certainly no Cinderella team. Now, granted, Coastal's been in the NCAA regionals, I think, since that World Series run in 2016. They've been in the regionals all but maybe 2 years or so. So this team is used to getting to the postseason. Now, it took them a while to get back to the Super Regionals, but this team gets into the postseason every single year, so they have that pedigree, and these guys that are in the program, they expect it.
What about Kevin Schnall has allowed him year one? Obviously, he's been around the program for so long as an associate head coach. What about him has allowed him year one to just step into this role seamlessly?
I mean, just being familiar with the program under Gary Gilmore for the last 15, 16 years. He was a Coastal Carolina baseball player back in the early 2000s, so he bleeds teal, no doubt in my mind. And he just, I mean, he coaches a lot differently than Gary Gilmore. Gary, I think, was a little bit more looser with the guys. Kevin is all business, and the guys have really just kind of followed suit. I mean, he's the leader of this group, and the guys, I mean, he knows what he's doing. He followed Gary Gilmore around there for a little bit, and he knows what he's doing. He's been so good with this program as a player and a coach, and the guys just follow after him.
I'll put you on the spot. Prediction for tomorrow.
I think 24 straight wins. Why not 25? I think Coastal Carolina gets it done. I think it's going to be a tight game. Sean's winning 5-4 tomorrow.
One of the hottest teams in the entire country, the hottest team in the entire country. We're not going to take that away from them. Oregon State and Coastal going to be one of the best matchups of the entire tournament. Thanks so much for joining the show.
You're welcome, Jacob. No
All
problem.
right, time for another quick break. When we come back, Brenna Green from KOIN in Portland joins the show to talk the Beavers, the opposition here. Stick around, you don't want to miss it. Welcome back to Omaha Bound, wrapping up shop, joined by a very special guest now, Brenna Green, sports anchor, reporter, does it all for KOIN, covering Oregon State here in Omaha. And before we talk the Beavers and, you know, what they got done against Louisville in just a wild game on Friday, let's talk a little bit about one of the best stories of Super Regionals. You caught up with a fan that has put together a heck of an effort out in Corvallis during that Super.
Yeah, it was pretty hard to miss during Super Regionals, mostly because it was going on during home plate the entire game. Matt Bassett and his friends set up what has now been affectionately referred to as a Canam. It's really caught fire within the Beavers fan base to the point where there's actually a shirt commemorating it at this point. What they didn't realize is that when they were supporting their Beavers, they also would receive the support of millions of fans online.
We were on a mission. We were trying to keep the mojo alive, get our Beavers to Omaha. That's the whole goal.
Mission certainly accomplished. Matt Bassett and his friends first built the Canam during Oregon State's first regional game against USC. But baseball Twitter power broker Stephen Schock first noticed it during last Friday's Super Regionals.
It was a little surreal to see, like, by the time I re-logged in, I think that post had almost 2 million views or something, which is pretty nuts.
By the way, you see our friends in the front row? They're back.
One little problem with all of the attention, the NCAA caught wind of the shenanigans and in the middle of Game 2 on Saturday tried to shut it down. No worries, though. Matt had a plan for that.
We played the rest of the game under protest, so if you look back at the later innings of Game 2, our whole section was drinking waters, and we stacked waters. In baseball, you play the game under protest. You may not agree with it, but you'll move on.
That was not the end of the story, though, as the Beavs headed into Game 3.
A couple of hours prior to the game, I got a call from Oregon State asking me to come to the stadium early, which I'm like, uh-oh, am I getting kicked out?
Quite the opposite.
They said they talked to the NCAA, and they said, you are all in, go build the dam. Let's do this. Let's get to Omaha. And so in that moment, we were just like, let's go. We're going to make sure the dam got built one way or the other. But it was way cooler knowing that Oregon State had our backs on it, too.
And now the Canam has Oregon State's backs as well.
Strike three call!
As the idea has been turned into a shirt with a portion of the proceeds going to OSU's NIL Collective.
There's some cool momentum happening in Beaver Nation to help make sure we're all doing collectively what we need to do to get us there. And if by golly we got to drink some beer, by golly, I think we will.
Matt was here last night in attendance for Friday's game. What's wild, though, is that he has a crazy schedule over the next week or so. So he had to fly out to go home to attend to some matters back there. But he told me that if Oregon State makes the championship series, he can be back here for Game 3. And he said he is going to fly in if that does happen.
Oh, my goodness. See, that's what makes the College World Series so great from the standpoint that it is a fan event, and there's no better example of that than something like this.
Yeah, I mean, that isn't cheap.
No.
Just so people know. That's going to cost him a pretty penny, but he's dedicated to his Beavs, as you could tell during that feature.
Well, why not? I mean, Oregon State back in the College World Series for the first time since 2018. And let's talk a little bit about this team. In 2018, it was all about late game heroics, dramatics, all the above. And Oregon State picked up right where they left off in game number 1 against Louisville. A walk-off for Oregon State. That kind of sums up what this team has been through, right? Independent, happened to go on the road throughout the season. Resilient is what comes to mind when you describe this team.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is I think that their schedule this year has actually really uniquely helped them for a situation like the College World Series. I mean, they played 35 games on the road. They only played 19 regular season games at home. It looks like they played 27 because of the regionals and super regionals, but no, it was only 19 regular season games. The final 8 came during the postseason. So this team is really well versed in playing in unfamiliar destinations. So we'll see if they keep pulling it off here in Omaha.
It's interesting on Thursday during that practice day, so many of the players talked about that from the standpoint that it wasn't as if they hung their head about it whatsoever. They talked about, instead of hiding in our hotel rooms, we just embraced being on the road. We liked the fact that we got to explore new places. It was just a part of what we had to deal with this season. And to your point, it probably plays really well when you got to be in a new place for a week and a half.
One of the mantras that Oregon State has said this entire postseason run is, however it happens is the way it's supposed to be. So they said, on the road this year, delayed flights, hotel rooms gone wrong, meals not being delivered, buses not showing up. And they've just said, however it's supposed to happen is the way it's supposed to be. And that's what they said after their game against Louisville as well.
It's truly an unbelievable story. Describe some of how do you even go about putting together a schedule when you are independent, not in a conference, not putting together conference series. Oregon State was just choosing and picking and ended up still putting together a really competitive schedule that obviously prepared them for this stage.
That's a great question for Mitch Canam. I have no idea how he pulled this off. I mean, it is incredible. So difficult. You have to navigate, okay, who has a bye week this week? Are we going to go there? Are we going to go here? Do they even want to play us? Because a lot of times teams don't want to play difficult teams on their bye weeks. They want to rest and hang out.
Off,
They don't want to be like, oh, let's have a top 10 team in the country come in here or us go to them. So as you can see, they didn't have that many home games. And a lot of the home games they did have was against teams like Gonzaga, Washington State, UP. They had one game against Oregon at home. So those are all teams that are local. There wasn't that many teams coming in to Corvallis from far out. I think the farthest team that came was like San Diego.
All West Coast.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed with what they were able to pull off. It is so difficult to do in the college landscape in any sport to do what they have done. It's so impressive they're here. Their fans are so proud of them, and I think that how they did it this year has only amped that pride up more.
It's a great point. Coach talked post-game after the Louisville win about how there was zero panic in the dugout after what a crazy top of the ninth that allowed Louisville to ultimately tie it. You've been around this team a fair bit, obviously. What about this group do you sense just calm, cool, collected, ready for a moment like that, not panicking in the ninth, just going to go ahead and walk it off anyway?
Yeah, there are so many personalities on this team that they don't get too high, they don't get too low. They just cruise. And that really is reflected in the makeup of this team on the field. They just aren't scared of any moment. I mean, they've had their backs against the wall so much. They go in regionals, they lose their first game of regionals, which is kind of a death sentence. And they are able to battle their way back. And they didn't just battle their way back, they dominated. I mean, 20 runs in one of their games in the regionals. So this is a team that just will not take no for an answer, and they will fight to the very last out of a game, and therefore that gives them so much confidence.
You almost felt a little bit bad for USC. It was like they got in the way of a locomotive. They just got run over by Oregon State. It was crazy what they did to the Trojans there. Now Oregon State has Coastal in what is just a fascinating matchup. For you, what do you have your eyes on in terms of, from an Oregon State perspective, what allows the Beavers to get it done?
I'm doing a feature on their pitcher that's going to start for this next game, and I definitely have my eyes on him. He has such a phenomenal story. He grew up in a town of less than 3,500 people in Oregon, 220 kids in his high school. He's his head coach's first D1 player ever, and he's been coaching at that high school for 20 years. And this kid, in a year, has gone from community college to starting in the College World Series. And he is just so even-keeled. His head coach told me, I used to joke back in high school that you could drop him into Fenway, he'd start for the Boston Red Sox, and he wouldn't have any problem with it. He'd be like, oh, this is fun, let's do it. So I'm really looking to see what Ethan Kleinschmidt does out there on the mound. I think it's going to be a really special performance from him on Sunday.
Fenway, Charles Schwab Field, 27,000 field, not scared of the moment. That's pretty awesome. It's going to be a fantastic pitching matchup. Jacob Morrison and Ethan there going head-to-head. Brenna, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for today's edition of Omaha Bound. We will be back to recap all the action and talk more. We'll speak to you tomorrow.